Pan-African Friday morning, the Pan-African program that comes your way from UBC Studios here. And viewer, wherever you are, welcome you to this program. My name is James Mituta, and in the studio today I have two guests who will be sharing with this program. The first guest is Honorable Mujungu.
Tembo Mujungu.
The Honorable Tembo Mujungu. Apparently, the Honorable Mujungu is the MP of Songora South, and he is a member of Parliament. He's also a member on the fiscal infrastructure of Parliament. And the other person that I have is Ndugu Hilary Ainesas. Hilary Ainesas is also a mobilizer of the NRM, I guess.
Yes, please.
When you are talking about mobilizers, we have to link them to a political party, apparently.
PLU.
So these are the two gentlemen, Ugandans, that we have in the studio today, and we'll be looking at a number of issues. Apparently, our time is limited, so we'll be going straight to our discussion today. But as today, we are looking at the delicate democracy on this continent of Africa, because a lot is happening and a lot has happened, and we are learning as Africans on what next steps to do, to take, especially in the democratic dispensation on this continent. But before we do that, I think a number of interesting issues have been happening on this continent, and to do so, I think I will begin with the Ndugu Hilary or Ainesas. Is there anything that captured your mind on this continent this week?
Yeah, thank you, Ndugu moderator. As I said, it's introduced to me. My name is Ainesas Hilary. Anenari Mukada, as Anenari mobilizers, he stated it. A number of things have happened on the continent, and the most important thing is the poor performance, or the performance of the AA. Look at the historical context of our politics in Africa and struggle. ANC is the oldest party, if I may say, or currently amongst the parties that are still existing. ANC has been there for a long time, and since it has been in existence since apartheid, and the time when South Africans liberated themselves, or the Africans, with the support of the African brothers, in 1994, ANC has been in power and has been dominating the politics of South Africa, until now, until these recent elections when they lost the majority in the parliament.
Okay, we shall come to that, because that's one area of discussion, looking at the delicate democracy on the continent of Africa. And ANC is one of the parties that definitely, when you're looking at Africa, the democratic developments in Africa, you can't leave it out. ANC and maybe the CCM in Tanzania and a few others that have been historical on this continent. But we'll come back to that, because it forms a whole discussion of this morning today. And the Honorable Ndugu Mujungu, the Mujungu, you know. Could you have picked something also of interest on the continent within the week?
Well, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good morning to our viewers this morning. Of course, as my brother has said, in a contextual setup, the debate over the democracy in South Africa has preoccupied the political class on the continent. But also, last week, we were unfortunate with the demise of the Vice President of Malawi. Of course, this coming on the footsteps of the demise of the President of Iran.
Exactly.
In a similar circumstances. So this is another aspect that first of all want to condole with the people of Malawi and the leadership on the continent, especially the AU. But I think that's something interesting. But you see, we also have to put this debate in a broader context on the continent. Of late, you've seen uprisings, especially in the Western Corridor on the continent, where young military officers take over power and they are pointing fingers at the colonial masters or neocolonialism. So as we debate, as we discuss democracy in South Africa, I would want us to look at Africa in 3 blocks. The Southern Cape, the ANC, I mean South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. You see the character of democracy there. And then the larger Sub-Saharan, where military coups seem to be taking a new order. And then the desert, above the desert, the Arab Islamic, from Egypt to Morocco, you see a different pattern there. The Sahara, Sub-Saharan being different, and the Cape being different. Okay. So when we discuss these topics, it is better to contextualize them in these dimensions.
Exactly, and thank you so much, gentlemen, for the submissions there. Now, you realize that when you are looking at what is happening in South Africa, like you pointed out, it may also concern the other countries that are neighboring South Africa, but also the wider political systems on the continent of Africa. We have seen South Africa, ANC dominating from the day one when Mandela was released from prison. Even before that, because there was that agitation that led to the release of Mandela from the prison, and it became a mass party. And of course, there were other smaller parties of Chief Buthelezi and others, but it still stood up to now that we are seeing the party apparently weakening, and now has to look for support to be able to form a government. Is this a problem of internal mechanisms, or it is the failure by the leadership of the party to transform so that it can maintain the strength from the grassroots, Honorable?
Well, I look at 2 factors. First of all, ANC, by the time they took over power with Mandela, it was a revolutionary mass movement. And South Africa and the whole continent, we breathed a sigh of relief when we saw blacks liberated. And many people thought that this would translate into the economic circumstances, where the blacks are not only in office, but also enjoying the benefits of the economy. But to date, the economy is lopsided. It is dominated by the former masters, the colonialists. So many blacks still wallow in poverty. It is true if you compare the standard of South African blacks to the rest of the continent, you would say many measure up better than us, our circumstances.
Yeah.
But realistically, when you go down, the economy is harsh on the ordinary person. That's one aspect. 2, I think the current crop of leaders through the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, is a second generation of the revolutionaries. And that's why you have seen them disagree with the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, by Malema. And of late, we are seeing an offshoot of MK Zuma with Mkozo Wesizwe. all this is a debate around what did ANC promise the people of South Africa. If you talk to Malema, he says it must translate economically down. Then now Mzee Zuma is saying no, the leadership of the ANC by Ramaphosa is wanting. And he's pointing at corruption, he's pointing at this and that. So, I think there is a debate among the elites in South Africa. And that's why ANC ended up performing badly with only about 40% of parliament. And now they are struggling to form a government of national unity.
Is this what happens? Because when we're looking at the delegate democracy on this continent and looking at South Africa, which has been on the front of democratic dispensation, we could say transformation from the time Mandela came to power and the subsequent, because the party has had its own way of doing things. You remember when President Mbeki who looked at was becoming weak, they had to remove him to save the party.
True.
When Zuma was becoming a problem, they put him aside to save the party. And Ramaphosa came on. Of course, President Ramaphosa has also been having issues as a person. Yeah. Could this be part of the problem that cracks created cracks within the political infrastructure of ANC?
Yeah, I think I agree, because about 2 years ago, many people thought Ramaphosa was going to be removed.
Exactly.
But somehow he maneuvered his way, and he put the house in order. But you can see that even when he tried to put the house in order, the performance at the general election was telling. And so I think Ramaphosa has to listen more to the voices of MK, for example, borrow relief from Malema. Malema is saying, can the economy translate down to the ordinary person? And unfortunately, some of the political class in the ANC have allied with the neo-colonialists, and farms have remained in the hands of whites. So the ordinary person, the South African, especially the black and colored, don't see sense in how the economy is benefiting them.
Exactly. And of course, Ndugu Ainesas, when you look at the accusations that were levied on President Mbeki when he was a president, and when you look at what has been levied on Ramaphosa, you find that actually Ramaphosa has a big task. But at the same time, it is also important, I think, for the political elite. We are talking about South Africa, but also looking at the rest of the continent, to listen to some of these voices, because Ramaphosa is now going down and is going with the ANC. Now, do we see a way, even within now the blocks trying to form alliances, which will be formed, do we see ANC coming back to the front?
Thank you, and good moderator. My colleague Honorable has stated it clearly that there is lack of transparency and with not listening, because some leaders, when they take up positions, they tend to forget. It's really a challenging situation for ANC, because as we talk now, even if the ANC looks at having a coalition, which party is it going to have a coalition with?
Not Malema, of course.
Of course, not Malema and not Zuma. Because yesterday and this morning I saw the MK party, which formerly belonged, whose members formerly belonged to ANC, threatening not to be part of the coalition, and at the same time threatening to block the coalition. And this is a party which has taken 58, which has won 58 representatives in the August House or in the parliament, and it has negatively affected the ANC's performance.
Exactly.
Had it not broken away, or had the former president not gone away, I don't think this ANC would have performed this way.
Right, yeah.
And when there are things again we look at, what does MK party stands for? They are saying they want to get land back to the natives. And those are the challenges that are affecting the natives, the South African, the black Africans. Land still belongs to the minority. The Africans or the blacks are still living in situations that are wanting. That's what the Zuma is standing for. But on the other side, still Zuma has also a weakness.
Yeah, of course.
He was a president
Yes.
for some time. He didn't address this problem.
This
now,
issue.
I think he's looking at himself is to blame for the weakness of the ANC.
Exactly.
Because as a former president, he wouldn't have broken away to weaken the party.
If it was
Both
patriotic,
leaders, the predecessor and this current president, are to blame for the weakness of the ANC. Now, what comes when it comes to the coalition? Which party are they going to have a coalition with? That is the party, the Pan-African, the Democratic Alliance, that is the party which is controlled by the minority.
The biggest party now is the DA, the Democratic Alliance.
Democratic Alliance.
And I don't see them working very closely with the Democratic Alliance.
Exactly.
I don't see the Malema the third, the second in that order. I don't see the ANC now working closely with Malema. So they have to go and look for the smaller parties if they will make a coalition. They
are, as of now, because I was following up the Secretary General of the ANC party, Fikile Mbululu, communicated a few hours ago that they have come to an agreement with the ANC to have a coalition government, but the terms and conditions haven't reached upon.
Exactly. And
once, because the DA has set stringent measures or stringent terms, and once they agree to that term, to those terms, which of course ANC has no option, it will put down ANC completely.
Exactly.
And that Democratic Alliance, they control the people behind it. Those controlling it are the minorities. Now, what happens when this Democratic Alliance happens to have an alliance with ANC? What will the EF of Julius Malema do? What will this breakaway party of MK for Jacob Zuma do? Now, where is South Africa heading?
Yeah.
Oh, where is ANC heading? We are looking at the end of ANC. Unless the leaders of ANC comes down and sits down with the former president, sits down with listens to Malema Julius, and come say we have a common problem. We are a homogeneous state, I may say, a homogeneous race. That is the ones of Malema and the one of MK and the ANC. This is a homogeneous group, unlike the other Democratic Alliance,
yeah,
which has interests, yes, and ideas. So if they define that and come together on the same table and say this is what we are supposed to do, let's sit down as brothers and sisters. Let's remember where we came from, so that we can have an idea that stands for all of us. But if they don't listen, or the ANC leaders or the current president doesn't listen, the ANC is phasing out.
I will ask this question because Honorable Tembo and Hillary, both of you, I think you politicians by nature,
yes,
and subscribe to the movement system of government in this country.
Yes, correct.
Are there lessons here?
Very much lessons. Many lessons.
Yeah, I think we have to learn lessons,
yes,
because this helps people to know that sometimes I think there's a need to listen to certain things. And I was talking to Honorable Tembo because when we see, because when we look at what is bringing down ANC is these internal mechanisms.
Yes.
Now, when you look at issues now happening, like in what we are seeing happen in the parliament, when you see things happen in the distortion of implementing government programs, you know, finally we accumulate a population which will hate the system, and when that happens, the system outright, but through the representations that they send to parliament, you can find that it's a problem. Apparently, other than Ndugu Tembo, Ndugu Inesas, you belong to a group of the Association of the Cadres,
Yes.
who suggested that the president should be elected by parliament.
Yes.
What were you looking at?
One, we are looking at number one, there were resources, monetization of politics on the grassroots. Number two, we were looking at, there were a number of issues, but that one was number one. Number two, people are looking at, yes, voting the president. We are looking at how can we have a controlled parliament.
What do
Brought on table, but people looked at parliamentarians or MPs voting the president, but we were looking to have an upper house, governors. That was the major intention, the major aim within the proposal that we tabled to the nation, to the masses. But because many Ugandans, whenever they hear about parliament, you know, because of what has happened in parliament, they no longer believe in parliamentarians.
you yourself believe in it?
I do believe it because it is a constitution existing and it has a mandate to deliver to the masses because it makes laws. It is a legislative assembly. But because of the actions that have been going on or whatever has been existing, there is loss of confidence by the masses. And that's why we're looking at we are looking at having an upper house which can be a speed governor to the actions of the members of parliament. Because everything that happens in parliament, the leaders tend to refer the matter to His Excellency. The president is the president of the nation. He can't even handle every common small matter.
Yeah, but
you can see what is happening
by parliament, then it becomes a constituency. You know, then the dynamics. Anyway, that's not the discussion for today.
Yes.
But back to Honorable Tembo. We were talking about the things, but you know, we are looking at the issues of Africa. Of course, you did mention about the West African issue. What has been happening in that part, and in most cases on this program, been talking about what the implications both on the continent, but also in those respective countries. Where have we as Africans gone wrong that we cannot see this happen? Because the new leaders are also saying, look, we are doing this because we have no option. Because African Union is not helping us. The African Union is leaving this government and leaders change constitutions as and when they wish to stay in power. And that is what is happening. And when you relate this with what is happening in South Africa, that the problem of ANC now is not the people of South Africa, but the leaders themselves of ANC. They have not been good salespersons. That maybe if President Ramaphosa left earlier, maybe it could have been a difference. Or if they had addressed the issues of MK, maybe they could have come up with a solution to the current crisis in that place. Do you think that Africa is short of focused leaders?
Well, you know, one thing that we need to all appreciate is public office is public trust. When we are elected to these offices, it is a social contract between us and the voters. When you say Uganda Parliament has 529 members of Parliament, what does it mean? It means the citizen in Karamoja in Chotera, here in Kampala, indeed in Delgon, is represented in the House. But you see, the world over, the question of representation is debatable. When do I consult? When do I know the best interest of my voter, the citizen? That's one aspect. Two, I think for the leaders, once we are elected, there is issue one of accountability and social justice. You see, for example, the debate around Parliament. Once you move from the sanctions to now the members of Parliament being put behind bars, it is a question of, have I played my role fairly? Citizens want to see that what we ought to do, we are doing it.
Exactly.
Like yesterday, the president presented a budget for 24-25. If we say we are going to put 10 trillion in education, shall the citizens see this translating into a grant-aided secondary school in his sub-county and running, and the young people get jobs in those schools? But what is happening, even with my brothers in the West, where you see a captain taking over power, it may not be different from when Thomas Sankara came to the seat at the age of 29, about 30 years ago. And Burkina Faso has remained the same, leader after leader.
Sure.
So even these friends of mine in the West who have promised hope in Mali, in Senegal, and military takeovers, it has to dawn on them that the citizenry want to realize the benefits of the economy. Governors must redistribute wealth equitably to the citizen. But if I'm going to replace X as a president, as a minister, as an MP, and the story does not change, so it's just a change of guard, to be a change of guard. So that's why you see, for example, if you say the French are bad, then tomorrow you invite the Russians. Is a Russian coming because of your agenda, or he's for the agenda of the Russians?
I mean, is he your relative?
Yes. So it's a relative change. So unfortunately for this continent, we may have another century wasted, or decades to go, where the citizen will feel that the leaders mean a lot for them. A few days I was sharing with a friend about Kenya. You know, for example, that under Uhuru and Ruto as deputy president, the deputy president was almost a president. He had a lot of power. If we came here, we knew Kenya had visited Uganda. Now, interestingly, I hear Ruto has squeezed his deputy to disarm him of that clout which he used under Uhuru.
The same problem is that he...
Yes, he used it to take over from Uhuru. Now he knows Karangwa can easily do the same to him. No, no power. So the issue of democracy in this on this continent will continue to be a big debate. See the military, the conflict in Sudan. Ceaselessly killing people and displacing millions of Sudanese. We used to think that Omar was the Bashir, was the problem. But today, the two warlords are warring, and we don't know how it will end. It is hopeless. So for me, I think the political class, and even the third estate, the fourth estate, and anybody who is interested in governance on this continent, we need to look at what does governance mean to the ordinary person.
Sure.
Will he have water? Will he have electricity? Will he have access to roads? And be able to take his produce to the market as and when they should. But because of poor accountability, you even give these guys money. Look at Kampala. I want you to show me a road in Kampala where I can ride without a pothole, without dust. It is not there. Actually, the cities in the countryside under Usmid are better. There is no road here in Kampala.
Actually, for us,
one can boast about.
For us who are outside of Parliament,
road is done here.
Yes.
For us who are outside Parliament, we sometimes wonder what is Parliament doing.
So now it's a question of the Parliament means well, but you see, when you are outside Parliament, you think Parliament is a supervisor. No, Parliament is never supervisor. Parliament represents, appropriates, and we do a post-mortem in form of oversight. This is post-mortem. But who is the executioner? The accounting officers in the MDAs. Here in Kampala, you'll be talking about the executive director with his administration down to the divisions. But you see, you give the problem, part of the problem which the citizens need to appreciate using Kampala case. One, the bureaucrats, the accounting officers with their echelons down to the commissioners and the like, they have controlled these contracts. Many times, many of them are linked to the contracts they award. So they are direct beneficiaries. And whatever goes wrong, they don't care because they have gotten their share. Two,
but that now becomes the oversight problem.
Oversight, yes, but I come there and I make noise and I stop there as a member of Parliament. But who is responsible? The minister in charge of the department.
But the minister also sits
Kambala's KCCA. Minister sits in Parliament, but he is part of the executive. It is his duty to see that the implementation is achieved. So number two, the other problem is that many of these contracts are given, many lots are given to one contractor. And you find a man running about 20, 15 projects at the same time. He has no capacity. So he has grabbed a road in Nakawa, he has a road in Machindi, he has a road in Masaka.
And no capacity.
And because he is linked to the bureaucrats,
he's stretched,
who are interested, he will claim he's stretched what, but that's part of the big problem.
And these issues that we are raising for the viewer are not only in Uganda. We are looking at what is happening here, but this is the bigger problem of the whole of the continent. This disconnectedness within the administration becomes a problem. When you have people who are getting contract, last time I saw Honorable Nabanja roasting another one.
Yes.
But you realize that the disconnection between the executive and the technocrats. Sometimes the executive comes with directives that may not be implemented. But sometimes the technical people also deny information or keep away some information from the leaders. Now, Parliament also sometimes, like you said, comes in to do the post-mortem. what happened and where we have failed. But now then you also have a problem where the parliament is also implicated in the same problems. So you see, this is one of the biggest issues that this continent has. And when you see sometimes people taking up arms, sometimes people, like we are looking at South Africa, the political systems fading, it's because of some of the things. And these things are not isolated cases only in one country, in Uganda or elsewhere, but definitely this is what is happening in Africa. And in Ndugu Inesas, we have been, like he put, sometimes people have been saying we need now the younger people to take up the leadership because the older people are failing us. But he put it, and which we also have been sharing on this program, is that you just need not to replace people. Because you remove one person today and put another one tomorrow, and you expect even the other one tomorrow could even be worse than one you are putting. So which should be the way now?
You know, the challenge is when we look at one, yes, it is the young people are yearning to take up leadership. We have seen it in West African countries where young officers are taking up leadership. He has stressed it up. But the issue is not about taking up leadership by the young generation. If you are to take up leadership, what are you representing and what are you able to do? We are talking about ideological, we are talking about the problem of ideological bankruptcy. Like when we look at West Africa, you are chasing away the French, you are chasing away the Americans, you are bringing the Russians. And here, that's why sometimes most of the times I give the credit to our president. We shouldn't put aside as Africans, because we need now to think of solving African problems by using African means or by ourselves. Now you bring in Russians, you are creating an enmity to the Western world. We need to accept that the Western world have a strong economy, however much they have economic challenges. But we need to devise or keep ways of how we can keep on working with them economically, mutual interests. Because the person you are bringing, like a Russians, supporting, you bring him directly here. Or, for example, any other country in the Eastern world, still, that is, I will refer to that as neocolonialism. If we are looking at neocolonialism, imperialism, fighting all those kind of nature of governance, so we need to think beyond that, leaning with one side of governance, of a system. The young people, before we take over power, are we ready to take on the mantle?
Yeah, because one will then say, when will you be ready?
Now, the challenge is, we need to accept that there is neocolonialism amongst the youth. We need to accept that there is a challenge that there is a missing link whereby the young people have to be ideologically oriented. Because
that's the most important issue you are raising, that we can change. Many people churn out leaders in and out, but as long as the orientation, the ideological orientation is not right, we're not changing the system, but changing people.
Exactly.
We will still remain with the same problems. And I've seen this happen from leaders who have come up promising a lot of things, but end up not happening, because you are not changing the system.
Yes, the challenge is having ideologically disoriented leaders nurturing young people into the positions of leadership. And that those young people come with ideologically bankrupt minds. They will not look at things the way others in an Africa, because people don't know what happened.
Because he talked about the elections in Senegal.
Yes.
I am happy that finally Sonko and his group won the election. But I am not excited, because until sometimes I still believe, I don't know why I have that strong belief, that Sonko and the president will at one point disagree along that way.
Yes, because when you look at, we play that it doesn't happen so, but when you look at the vice president, whom he appointed him a vice president or a prime minister? A prime minister.
Who has a lot of power.
Who has a lot of power and is more politically ambitious than him. This gentleman has been in politics struggling with Sall, the former president.
Yes.
This person, believe it or not, at one moment there is going to be a missing link between them, and they may clash, because the interest of the prime minister may not necessarily the same interest of the president.
Yes. I
pray that they come to an understanding like they managed to be during elections or after elections when they are forming the cabinet, the government, so that they can live to the expectation of the Senegalese. But if they don't, the Senegalese won't achieve anything in that context.
Exactly.
And it is going to happen even to these countries in West Africa, where mostly young people have taken over power.
Sure.
The moment they keep on going to the east and they chase out the other side, you know, it is syndicate. It is better you balance and you remain in a situation or in a position like Uganda we are, non-aligned movement. Let's have interests. Sometimes me as a Pan-Africanist, as somebody who believes in Pan-Africanism and nationalism, whenever I see every time Africans are being summoned to every country, in the east, in the west. The other time I saw South Korea, Africa Summit, and you find all leaders are heading there. Why can't we have Uganda and Europe Summit in Uganda? Why can't we have East Africa and American Summit in Uganda or in Kenya? Why can't we have South African Summit, Asian country, Asia, in South Africa? Why should every time have Africans going the other side and parading with one president of a small country which can't even raise, which doesn't have the 50 million population? So that is ideological disorientation, whereby Africans believe that a white man is supernatural. Even when we got independence, we still believe that, you know, they are more advanced. Yes, they are more advanced, because what made them advanced is because of the challenge they faced at that moment. Because they were living in harsh environment and they had to use all measures. You are even
making them more advanced,
yes,
by giving them the raw materials. Finally, because we are running out of time, we are told there will be a program coming our way. We are not going to for the 2 hours. But Honorable Tembo, do you think that the issue of ideology, the issue of disorientation in terms of political values is responsible to what is happening in Africa?
I agree. You see, Africa is a lost community, because since colonialism, we have been coached in a foreign order. You look at everything here we have. What do we manufacture here? The phone you have, the car you drive, the food you eat. You see? He's right, my brother is right. Ideological orientation. But you see, the unfortunate part, the political class, the elite, now go for self-interest. They are driven by self-interest.
Personal
interest. Less interest in the society.
Sure.
The other problem which we need to look at, digital technology has also affected our thinking. Our young people are now lazy.
Yes.
They are driven by technology. If you check a young person with a smartphone, out of the 12 hours of the day, he might have spent 6 hours on that phone.
Absolutely.
And doing nothing, but doing nothing productive. So this is a challenge for the young people, especially those who want to take over leadership and who should anyway as we get out. What is it that they want to see? What you, for example, take context of Uganda. Which Uganda do they want to see? But today, it won't surprise you for somebody to call himself, me I'm an Acholi, I'm a Muganda, instead of saying I'm a Ugandan and this is what I want to see. But we begin with those community links. And yet, the enemy, the external forces, are united. Whether west or east, now there is a Chinese dimension. Now, so, the ideological development, ideological orientation has a threat with the external threat through digital technology and external interests. Yes. They still need our raw materials. So they will not give us space.
Exactly.
Or in fact, they will need to buy them so that they can continue to have a D-Day here. It's a big challenge for the continent.
Yeah, thank you so much. Next time we meet, we'll be looking at the issue of that from there. Maybe you are looking at something from the outside, but there has a deeper implication from inside. That maybe these people have sat somewhere and they agree that if we do like this, we shall be able to achieve this, and that happens. We have seen that happen in many places where you find black people with crime. Say blacks are known for crime, but is it true?
Stigma.
Stigma. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, gentlemen, for being on this show. And because we are not going for our usual 2 hours, we shall be going for 1 hour. And because there's a program which is coming on. But I thank you and the viewer who has been with us for all of this time. And we promise next week, of course, the last 2 weeks we have had a number of issues not coming by live, but we have been at least some programs relayed. But we shall be with you next week over the same discussion. I shall continue with this. To continue this discussion. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best of the day and the weekend. And please keep around with the UBC. More interesting programs, educative, are coming on. And we thank you for your time.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Junko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What should do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Be amazed the hidden treasure in a woman of substance.
S4, still, father buys me a first car, a brand new.
Their experiences.
Yeah, really my eyes were so big, I was so skinny, I was so tall.
And into the women they've become. Be inspired by their transformation and their stories.
I had to take Mama Nakaunde and Dr. Bossa at home.
Super Soul Sisters, only on UBC TV.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Qualified, professional, and compassionate doctors talking real solutions to